I'd like to talk about is how, looking at me, how easy or difficult access was for sex in class.
So access for sex in class was incredibly tricky, probably one of the hardest bits of access I've ever had to try and negotiate. I think it was two things. Schools were really interested initially, and we contacted probably over 1,000 schools over about 6 months initially. And they were all very interested, and clearly the need was out there, that they all felt like the way they currently provide sex education wasn't adequate, and they needed help, and things needed to be shaken up and needed to be brought up to date. But when it actually got to the nitty-gritty to try and get a school to allow her in and actually sort of put their head above the parapet, and on top of that go on television, access tended to fall down. So we got quite far with a lot of schools where the head would meet us, they'd be enthusiastic, but then we'd get to the governors and they'd ultimately kibosh it. And we got to the point of almost filming with 2 schools, crewed up, everything ready, and access fell away at the last minute. In one instance, that's because a new head started unexpectedly, and another incident. The governors said no, basically. So we eventually found the Hollins Technology College, which is quite a typical comprehensive in Accrington in Lancashire. And really they just had a really inspiring, very sort of ballsy head, I suppose, who was really prepared to take that risk. He really believed in it. What we'd actually done before we filmed the programme for broadcast, we'd made a non-broadcast pilot. So I think the channel just wanted us to, one, prove we could get into a school, and to kind of see Gudla in action as well, because Gudla, who's the talent, who's the lady we followed, and the lady who did the teaching, she's done a lot of television previously in Holland and in Belgium, but not really in the same way. She's been an expert on chat shows, so rather than having a whole kind of show focused around her, so they wanted to see how she'd actually interact, in a more kind of observational documentary setting. So we'd filmed the pilot, and with that pilot we tried to negotiate access for broadcast. I think when we took that short film to the Hollins initially, they were pretty shocked, taken aback, because it's quite explicit, her teaching, is certainly compared to what we have here. But they ultimately kind of fell in love with her, saw how effective her teaching was during the non-broadcast pilot in such a short amount of time, and from that point, to be honest, the head was really behind us, as were his team of teachers who taught sex education. And actually the school we ended up working with, they were quite forward-thinking for this country. So there's a lot of schools out there that probably would have been worse, but they already had taken initial steps. But that said, this was quite a stretch for them.